Hey, it's Katie Moran, and here's your heartfelt lift. Today I'm here with Eric Schumacher, Autumn Ivy, and Sara Mirasola. I'm so grateful to be here today, and their recent production of Museum of the Omniverse Dragon exhibit is so powerful because I'm someone, as you probably know, who's overcome a lot to find self-belief. And I've really done it with the idea that everything I do for myself is something I can give back to other people, which has given me so much strength. And I'd love to hear a little bit about the inspiration um, for all of you in bringing really your best self to this work. It's really powerful, and I love this idea of believing in yourself even when society tells you, like for Autumn's piece, when society tells you that you're not enough as you are, and really finding the strength within. So yeah, Autumn, if you'd like to start us out with that, I'd love that.
Sure. So I'm Autumn Ivy. It's a pleasure. Thank you for inviting us. Um, I think, there is a lot of media where the concept of being able to push yourself beyond what the box and limitations of not just society itself, but sometimes even internalized things that were caused by maybe childhood or, people that you thought were friends or unfortunately sometimes even parent figures. What I like the most about the different roles, I had the pleasure of playing several different roles for this series. I got to play Katrina in Timothy's On Stone and Fire. I got to play Shayla in David Lee's The Dragon's Keeper. And then the final one was Carol Heitschu's Heart of the Dragon, which was Polari. Katrina in particular, though, has kind of a physical disability in this instance. And which of course it varies across person to person. I have Meniere's disease in my right ear, so I have to lean into people sometimes to hear them talk because that does affect my hearing in my right ear. Um, and then I also have my own personal stuff for like my mental health blocks and things that maybe people can't perceive, but would assume that because I look fine, that I therefore must be fine.
Mhm.
Um, I appreciate series that oftentimes can take the concept of both hidden and visual, either disabilities or mental health positions where it maybe affects the way that you perceive things or do things. I'm ADHD, for example, and so being able to kind of bring my own, I don't want to use the word symptom base. Unfortunately, per medical term, I have to, but it's really just a matter of this this journey that I have been put on, whether it was my choice or not, um, is interesting to take the element of that and the way that I've had to approach life and implement it into roles like this for these stories in particular. So it's definitely been an interesting journey.
Yeah, I love that. And that's so important that sometimes like when people can't see like what you're struggling with,
Mm-hmm.
it's harder for them to have compassion. And also, there is still a stigma, but it's so important that we don't turn that internalized. And like when
Mm-hmm.
we talk about self-belief, I think the most powerful thing is this idea that like there is so much like harsh external judgment and stigma, but it's like as long as we don't let that like into our ship, like it won't sink. And I absolutely love that. Sara, I'm curious about your part in this production, and I personally like felt so connected to your character who sees the dragons because I've definitely with my own mental health struggled with like what's real, what's not real, which is can be very vulnerable place to be in. And I'm curious, like, what did you connect most with for this character?
Wow, yeah, great question. I connected with the girl a lot as well. When Eric, I worked individually with Eric, him as the director with the voice work, and crying while we were taking takes, right, because the lines she's saying. I also have like synesthesia, ADHD, some other like invisible things, internal, like physical health with like hemochromatosis and endometriosis and stuff where you look fine, And then on top of it, you're telling someone, yeah, but when you talk, I see colors
Hmm.
and I feel emotions. And for years, though, that's not real. You must be crazy for making it up. And then I'm learning it's like, no, that's my gut. That's my instinct. That's the, I have one. It's just up here. But yeah, when someone's, in addition to not being able to see it, like what Autumn's talking about, someone's not even believing what you're telling them you are seeing. And then being afraid, am I crazy? Am I really seeing something that's not there? And this is maybe scary or crazy for me in my fluctuation in life. I'm actually not functioning well and I'm unable to see it. And you can believe someone else. So I really do love how the particular story that I did a voice for unfolds because you can lose your light too. You can lose your creative voice.
Mm.
I had some narcissistic abuse recently, so realized someone did try to convince me I was crazy,
Mhm.
and it's not great.
Yeah, I love Dr. Ramani's book on narcissism. It's so powerful. But you mentioned synesthesia, and the first time I learned about that, it was in like a Scientific American magazine, and there were like all these five and twos, and like I couldn't like figure out which ones were five or twos or like what it was like actually spelling out. And I love how they described that like someone with synesthesia would be able to see it. And I think that is just so profound to this idea of like artistry and that like some artists just like see like a perfect way to articulate something that people are going through that they can't articulate for themselves. And like I always think that like for every problem there's like a person who sees the solution in a way that no one else can. And like
Hmm.
to me that like is art at its best.
Hmm.
I love the way you just said that. Yeah.
Yeah, and Eric, so I think you're the perfect champion for this because of what I know about your background and your own self-belief in yourself and just like with the production of this, I just think it's like very much like a powerful like movement in itself that you have this self-belief and that you're telling these stories where people find self-belief in themselves and also in community and relationships. So I'm curious if you could go a little bit into inspiration for that.
Well, you know, the reason I produce, and not, but I started as an actor, raised by actors, trained by actors. It's been my passion for as long as I can recall. And I started to produce actually, what sort of led me to produce, and I've talked about this in other interviews, is I was at a Star Trek convention a long time ago when I was a kid, and I saw Nichelle Nichols speak, and she's told the story about how she was going to quit Star Trek, and she was the original Uhura on the original Star Trek series. And to badly paraphrase it, there's much better versions out there, including her own words. But she met Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who told her um, that what she was doing, being an African American woman on a major television show as an officer on, the future equivalent of a naval ship, was inspired, showing people possibilities, um, and that really got me thinking. I could not only be a participant in the narrative, but I could actually, um, help to guide the narrative into stories that are important, and that stayed with me. And eventually, I learned the skills of a producer and of a director as well, and started picking, what we made. And so when I joined Seelie Studios, my now currently very small company, we my then business partner, who unfortunately passed away a few years ago from cancer, um, made very clear to me before he offered me any kind of joining up with the company, that the main mission of the company was community. And that really fit my mission. Essentially, when I produce, I'm producing, creating both art and business models that I hope are beneficial to everyone and bring people together as creators for something positive, and also bring uh, those same creators together with fans for something positive. And so it's a risky endeavor. This particular project started uh, almost 5 years ago, and um, with concepts and ideas. Originally, in fact, we licensed the story "The Dragons" from Jeremiah Lynch, and Sara performed in that, and then that was in the process of forming the concept for the Museum of the Omniverse with David Lee Summers, wonderful author and publisher as well, and a good friend. And so we collected stories and put them together into this volume to create a story flow. In the midst of that, COVID hit. We had to change our entire approach. We were going to record everything locally, mostly in a small studio. We once had a brick and mortar studio, and then a bunch of bad things happened that were completely out of our control. And, we lost most of our infrastructure and are, kind of hobbling along right now. But we're, kept going, kept clawing ahead. And so we realized, well, this is an opportunity to make it bigger, actually. So we then cast a bigger cast in doing recording through home studios in 3 different countries and multiple states. So we have an 18-member cast instead of a much smaller one, and collected the volume together and basically kept going through a variety of different trials and tribulations that we don't have time to go into in this short segment. But it was a tough project to get through, and nearly 5 years later, we just released on Amazon and Audible, and got a very good distribution deal with the wonderful Big Happy Family Audio, and in the near future should be in just about every English-speaking country in the world on various platforms. So, and at any given time, we faced a number of different challenges that would have killed this project outright, and we just, as a team, kept figuring out solutions. And it was because we believed in every part of this as exemplary of what our mission is, as creators, to tell great stories like the ones you've mentioned and the others that are in the series that all really have profundity and high entertainment value. There's a lot of complexity to this project, in a good way. It's designed like audio movies, not just there's hundreds of sound effects and an immersive soundscape, and a wonderful soundtrack created by Jeff Moon, and so it's the first of many. We plan to do 10 in this series at least, and have several other audio projects coming, and so on and so on. But we're still in that kind of state where right now we're this is make or break time, and as I told the team at one point during production, I have put everything I have into this. The boat is burned, and I am on the beach, and I can say that now, is that about self-belief? I'm not sure. I doubt myself regularly. I don't let other people see that very often. I have to, try to inspire as best I can. I have loads of problems with confidence and loads of problems with fear and anxiety and all kinds of fun stuff I could go into volumes about. I face a lot of challenges personally, but what it really comes down to for me is this, and it has for most of my acting career and most of my producing career. Every time, for example, I've walked out on a stage or gone onto a movie set the first time I do that for any production, I'm absolutely horrified. I'm just terrified, until I start performing, and then I'm fine. And it comes down to every time I ask myself, are you absolutely out of your mind? I mean, this is a crazy career. It's insane that you're even doing this. Will this work? And ultimately, does it matter? The point is, I know from lots of deep introspection, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So I'll do it, and I'll give it my best, because that's what I'm supposed to do. And hopefully other people like it enough that it's successful. That's really what it comes down to. I've thought about stopping or switching into other things, and I just can't, because it's what I'm supposed to do. And I've watched other creators who've faced many similar challenges. What we do as artists is very, very scary. Putting yourself out there, and it's a difficult life and a difficult career, even when you're successful at it. And I know people who are successful at it and are constantly, in that battle themselves. and yet if you didn't do it, you wouldn't be true to yourself. So you keep going, and in the process, you find solidarity with people. I mean, some of the part of what keeps us going is those conversations we've had with people who've experienced our work and were moved by it. And sometimes when we're hitting those really tough spots where it's like, I don't know if we can keep this moving anymore, this whole thing could fall apart. I'll actually think about the times where I've spoken with people who've, been kind enough to tell me about my work and tell me that, it helped them get through something, or it helped them understand something in themselves, or it made them. God, I had this one wonderful conversation after a theater performance where I was doing a comedy. I was a lead in for a 6 week run, and I was just tired of it. I mostly put most of my energy into drama. Felt that was more profound, and it was just kind of a silly comedy. I didn't understand why I was still doing it, but we had to finish the show, so I put my all into it. But backstage, it was like I'm ready to be done with this. And I remember there was a guy who pointed to this older woman in the audience. I always came out and spoke to the audience afterwards, and he said, "Listen, that's my mom over there, and her husband died a year ago, and she hasn't smiled until today. Thank you." And she laughed really, really hard. And so I think about stuff like that, and that's a lot of what keeps me going. Is I can do pretty well at this. I've worked very hard to do well at this. So we keep doing stuff like this, and hopefully it keeps doing that and better.
That's so powerful. And I think the only thing better than these stories is what each of you bring to it. And like knowing the context of where it fits in your work, I think is just, it gets better and better at learning about it. And I encourage those listening and watching to bring their selves to this production if you listen, or when you really have the heart to do it, because it is just so touching. And yeah, I absolutely loved it. So thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you.